record after working out this issue with the exhibits. And we are recording again. You can see the red, little orange dot at the right-hand upper side. And Ms. Fassahayes, and do you want me to show her this exhibit, which I believe was Respondents Exhibit 12, and I'm on page 155, is that correct?
Yeah, thank you. 155. Okay.
1 second. All right, I'm now sharing this exhibit, Response Exhibit 12, page 155. And we had identified this document, I believe, as the investigative reports, the chronological log of the investigation steps. Is that correct, Ms. Fassahayes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cross.
Great, thank you. Okay, so can you just describe for us what your relationship in the management hierarchy is to Christy Preston?
She was a colleague.
Okay, so you didn't have any supervisory role over her?
No, sir.
Okay. Who was her supervisor, if you know?
I don't remember exactly who her direct supervisor was.
Okay. So, did you give a statement to Internal Affairs anytime in regards to the escape?
I believe so.
Okay, when would that have happened?
I don't remember.
Okay. Who did you speak with?
I don't remember.
When you made these statements, were you cautioned under work rules to tell the truth?
When I was interviewed as a witness, yes.
Okay, and how do you know you were interviewed as a witness?
Because I remember being interviewed as a witness.
Well, how do you know you weren't the subject of the interview?
I don't remember. I don't know if I assume I received a notice, but I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall what you said to during the interview?
No.
Would seeing the interview refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to page 426, please.
Is that still part of this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, good. All right. 426, you said?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are on page 426 of Response Exhibit 12. Go ahead.
Can you identify this document, please?
This is the 15807C, which is the investigatory interview document.
And who's the person, who's the subject of, or I guess interviewee is the term you're using here.
Ms Fassahayes was the interviewee.
Great. So, and during this interview, did you explain how you learned about the escape?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, if you can scroll down a little bit, please, to question 4 to the bottom of that page. Do you see Do you see question 4?
Yes, sir.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So what was your response about how you became aware of the escape?
I received a phone call from Assistant Administrator Stephanie Hovey the morning of April 16th that there was a potential or a possible escape. And then it was confirmed around 6 a.m. on April 16th by Warden Novak.
Okay, does that help you recall who you contacted after that?
I don't think I understand what you're asking me.
Well, my question is does this information that you just read help you to recall who you contacted after you learned of the escape?
I had no problem recalling who I contacted after the escape.
Okay, and who was that?
Secretary Carr.
Okay.
Okay, could we have a clarification? Did you talk to Secretary Carr when you thought there was a possible escape? Or after there was a confirmed escape, or both?
I called him both times. So immediately after Assistant Administrator Stephanie Hovey called me, I called Secretary Carr. And then again, once I got the confirmation, I called him. I believe I also called our communications director at the time. And I believe Doug Percy as well.
Okay. And did they ask you about any information or any contact that Sue Novak had made with you prior to the escape?
I don't understand your question.
Sure. Did Mr. Sonnenberg and the other internal affairs investigator ask you if you had had any contact with Warden Novak prior to the escape?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, you testified earlier that there was a lockdown at Columbia, right?
There were a number of lockdowns at Columbia. Which time are you talking about?
We're talking about November 2019, right?
In November 2019, yes, there was a lockdown at Columbia Correctional Institution.
Okay, what was the purpose of that lockdown?
There was an employee that was attacked.
Okay. How does that explain the purpose of the lockdown?
It was for safety reasons. The leadership team at CCI wanted to conduct sweeps to ensure that there was no additional threat. They were also doing some security training. As I recall, Warden Novak saying getting back to the basics of security at CCI. So there were a number of steps that were had, both in reaction to the employee attack, and then also related to the security of the institution.
Okay. So did you ever learn of whether or not Warden Novak talked to anybody about Holly Zimdahl after you had this interview with Internal Affairs?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, have you read this investigative log before today?
No.
Okay. But you read the after action report?
Since 2020?
Sure.
No.
Okay, how about before that? Did you read the after action report?
In general, yes. When it was, yeah,
And when was that?
in 2020.
What day did that come out?
I don't recall.
Was it before or after you gave statements to Internal Affairs?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you read it before or after you gave statements to Internal Affairs?
I don't remember.
Okay. But I guess, did you give your statement to Internal Affairs before or after you authorized the 15807?
After, because the only reason they were doing an investigation is because I drafted the 15807.
Okay. So during, and they would have known that. The investigators knew that, right?
Knew what?
They knew that you drafted the 15807 when they were asking you questions related to the 15807 that you drafted.
They had it in their possession.
Okay. And do you believe that Christy Preston knew that too?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Did you give it to Christy Preston, the year 15807?
I don't remember who I gave it to.
Okay. But you know her to be the head of Internal Affairs, right?
Correct.
And you saw there on the log that it says that the 15807 was given to, received by Internal Affairs, right?
Yes.
Okay. So based on that, do you believe that Christy Preston read your 15807?
I don't know what she read, sir.
Oh, okay. And how many times did you discuss this interview, this investigation with Christy Preston while it was ongoing?
I don't know.
Okay, but based on those conversations that you had with Christy Preston, do you recall whether or not she read the 15807 that you authored?
I don't know what she read.
Okay. So was a training, did that take into, was that a motivation for authorizing the lockdown in Colombia in November of 2019?
Can you rephrase your question?
I can repeat it. Was training a part of the reason for initiating the lockdown at Columbia in November of 2019?
It was not the part of the reason for initiating the lockdown. The attack was.
Okay. And did you ever read any of these investigation, the interviews? Did you read any of these interviews?
Which interviews?
Any of the interviews related to the Sue Novak investigation?
I don't. I think part of the IRT process I did.
Okay. And what was discussed there?
We determined if there were any potential work rule violations.
Okay.
What kind of violations?
Work rule violations, ma'am?
Thank you.
Okay. Now you're in charge of the training priorities for Columbia, right?
No,
Who is?
the warden.
Oh, okay. Did you ever put the escape plan on the list of training priorities at any time for Columbia?
Object to relevance.
What is the relevance, Mr. Cross? I see none.
Right. Well, it's my understanding that that the escape plan was not on the list of training priorities and that she only put it on at some months after the escape happened.
Okay. It may be that they didn't do a good job. I don't know. I'm not saying they did, but that's not proof that they treated Ms. Novak differently because of her sex and or because of retaliation. So I don't see how this is relevant to the issues in our case.
I got it. Okay. Okay, so if we can go to the bottom 2 full pages now.
So you want to go from 426 to 428?
Yeah, and that should start with answer 11 at the top, A11.
So we're on page 428 of Respondents Exhibit 12. And that's where you want to be, or do I need to go down further?
Further at the bottom, please.
There,
Yeah, okay.
right?
So they ask you, okay, is there anything else about this topic we didn't ask you that you feel we should know or that you want to tell us? And then you respond, yeah, I think there is one thing I would like to add. Columbia Correctional Institution has been a facility that this administration has spent a lot of time working with, and the institution was on lockdown, or we suspended administrative rules back in November as a result of 3 serious staff assaults in a period of 2 weeks. Did I read that part right?
Correct.
Okay, so there was 3 serious staff assaults, is that right? Not just one?
Correct.
Okay, and then it says, and we locked down the facility and provided resources to the facility to not only investigate, but train staff on security basics. Did I read that right?
Correct.
Did that happen?
From what I understand to have happened, yes.
Okay, and then it says that lockdown lasted until January is when we finally opened everything up. I think we opened as much as we could. I think the lockdown was officially lifted at the end of December, if I'm not mistaken. But there were a couple of things that we still didn't.
I can't read that.
Okay, if we can just keep scrolling here. There's a couple of things we didn't open up until January, and in that time, one of those things that was found was the security staff had gotten comfortable and had been complacent, and the warden at that time said, well, we have to get back to security basics, and we wholeheartedly supported that. We extended the lockdown so that every person could get trained in security, and we provided Columbia with those resources. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay, so was training part of the reason that you extended the lockdown?
Yes.
Okay. Why was this a significant issue to you in the escape?
Because there was training related to security that occurred during the period of the lockdown. The warden felt very strongly that the staff had gotten to be complacent and that they needed to go back to the basics of Security 101. So the reason why it was concerning to me as it relates to the lockdown is because basic security steps were not followed the day of the escape.
Okay, so if we look up here, you also say, I think in this, I mean, not to go on and on about all the different failures that happened that led to the escape.
I can't read that.
Okay, but there were multiple things that occurred that that had one of those things.
Okay, I don't know where you are, Mr. Cross.
I'm
Where
on
are you?
answer 16.
Okay, you're on 16, so we're back up with a question before.
You got it.
Okay, so we're back on 428 before we had gone from page 428 to the top of 429. Now we're back on page 428 of Respondents Exhibit 12, question 16. Go ahead.
Thank you. Had one of those things operated, had one of those security staff done what they were supposed to do, I shouldn't even say supposed to do, if they had done what we believe they should have been doing, I think the escape could have been prevented. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, what do you mean by supposed to do, and I shouldn't even say supposed to do, if they had done what we believe they should have been doing? What did you mean by that?
I mean that there were things that each individual that ended up getting disciplined for had failed to do. For example, the tower officer was not being alert that day. Same thing with the perimeter officer. Same thing with the individual that worked on the housing unit that was supposed to be checking IDs. So those are all the things that we believe they should have been doing based on what we understood the security basics were, and they did not. And a series of inactions and actions led to the escape.
Okay, and again, are those accusations against Warden Novak or against individual security staff?
This was a general statement related to a number of different people.
Okay. Now, I just want to get you to the top of that page where it says question 12 up there, okay? So, and under,
All right, we're now at the beginning of page 428, question 11 is the answer there. And then the next question is question 12. Go ahead.
and I'm gonna move on to 13, which it says, okay, who should have warned Novak if contacted if she needed any help or assistance? Is this during the escape or before the escape?
I think the question is in relation to the action, to what Sue Novak needed after the escape. I don't think you can read that in a silo, sir.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Okay.
I mean,
So,
but you could- okay.
well, what, is there another interpretation?
No, I'm just saying you can't read that out of context. There were clearly questions before that were specifying what it was related to.
Okay. So, if the issue is systemic, a systemic training issue, and you had been involved in assisting, let's say in planning out the training during the lockdown, or did I misunderstand that right?
I think you misunderstood that.
Did you provide resources to Sue Novak during the lockdown for training purposes?
Yes,
Okay, and we understand that when you say provide resources, that's another form of supervision, right?
I guess you could say that.
I did say that, thanks. So with that in mind, it's fair to say that you were supervising Sue Novak with regard to training in November of 2019, right?
No, I don't think that's fair to say that.
Okay. But you were supporting her?
Yes,
Okay. And support means supervise in this context, right?
I'm going to object, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. Did you tell Secretary Carr that Doug Percy hadn't done anything wrong?
I don't remember.
Did you ever determine that Doug Percy hadn't done anything wrong?
I'm going to object, asked and answered. We've gone over this.
Sustained.
Okay. Now let's talk about the charges against Sue Novak.
Okay, Mr. Cross, it's now 12:03. We started at 9, although we did have the break where
Give me like 10 more minutes. Give me 10 more minutes.
Okay, because we already did like hours last week or last time. Okay, so 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes, I appreciate it. Can you go to page 900, please?
Still the same exhibit?
No, yes.
All right, response exhibit 12. page 900, did you say?
That's right.
All right. All right, we are on page 900 of response exhibit 12, and you can see that, Ms. Fassahayes?
Yes,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you identify this document, please?
this is the predisciplinary notice document that was provided to Ms. Novak.
Okay. And what work rules did you identify that Ms. Novak had violated?
I don't remember. I can't see the full document.
Okay. Do you need that to refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll get the page, go ahead. Is that helpful,
Okay, good.
what I did now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
What work rules
Page
are those?
900.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Attorney Cross.
Let's just start with work rule 2. How
Okay.
did Warden Novak violate work rule 2?
I don't remember. We would have to refer back to the investigation.
Well, you signed off on it, right? It's your
Yes.
decision, right?
Yes,
Okay, you decided which work rule she violated, right?
along with HR.
Okay, and you made this decision, right?
I
That's what
didn't.
you're saying this week, right?
I did not say that she violated these work rules. I said that these were the work rules that we were reviewing.
No, this is a pre-disciplinary meeting. That's a different story. The IRT's already happened. You know that.